Good evening. Welcome, everyone. And this is the Meet the Board 2024-2025. We have some familiar faces here tonight, and there'll be some new faces. But we're so glad you came to join us to meet and hear what we kind of have planned coming up this year. This meeting will be in three different sections. The first section will be the introduction of the board members. The second, we'll talk about the grant recipients. And the third section, we'll have an update on the FamilySearch collaboration. Please stay tuned and stay with us for the whole webinar, as at the end, we'll be giving away 2 door prizes. We have these wonderful guidebooks of Kentucky that it was published by the Society, and we will be giving 2 of them away at the end. So let's get started with meeting the board. And I'd like to first have Terry Smith, who is our secretary, introduce herself.
Oh, hi, I'm Terry Smith. I'm happy to be here. I am a returning board member, like Kathy said, and I won't tell a lot about myself, but I'm from Owensboro, Kentucky. I live there. I'm originally from a little town outside of St. Louis on the Illinois side, and I honestly really didn't know my family in Kentucky, so I joined Ancestry and it became an addiction. Some of my favorite things to do, mostly in Kentucky, is to visit cemeteries, do ancestry, genealogy. I've got my husband kind of trained, he's not listening, just so that we go camping, and that's my way of getting him out to look for records and, cemeteries and things like that. So I'm happy to be back.
Thank you, Terry. Next, we have Melissa Barker. She'll be familiar to you. She's one of our at-large board members. And Melissa was a board member for the last 2 years. Take it away, Melissa.
Thank you, Kathy. Yes, I've been a board member for 2 years. I am an archivist. Actually, I work at the Houston County, Tennessee Archives and Museum, and I'm a professional genealogist. I've been researching my family history for 34 years. My connection to Kentucky is actually not through my family, but it's through my husband's family. I research my family and my husband's family. In the Barron, Warren County, Kentucky area, Land Between the Lakes area. He has a wonderful ancestor that I love to research who ran off with his stepdaughter, got her pregnant, and
Oh, wow.
Very well-known family in the Warren and Barron County, Kentucky areas. And so I love researching him. He's quite the cad. But I enjoy with Elizabeth, we kind of co-host the webinars and take questions, and I introduce the speakers. And so I really enjoy doing that. And I'm looking forward to the next term with the Kentucky Genealogical Society.
Thank you, Melissa. Our next board member, he is not at all new to you, and that is Christopher Pageant, who is returning to us at large.
Hi there. I am, this is my 7th year on the board, if you can believe that. So I'm based in Louisville, Kentucky, and I am just so excited to be on this board this year. We've got such a great team, and we've got folks from all over the place, which is really exciting. And I have ancestors so far in 40 Kentucky counties, so I've done a lot of research in most of them and know a lot about Kentucky records, where they're at. Most of them aren't online, by the way. There are some online, but not many. This is an exciting year to do Kentucky genealogy, and we've got a wonderful mission, and that's why I'm still engaged and involved in this after all these years. And I'm just thrilled to support our new leaders, Kathy and Susan, and our new board members, Diane and Lynn and Weston and Elizabeth. I think you're all going to do a great job. So over the next 2 years, I will be here to play sort of fill-in role as necessary, and make sure that folks have the institutional knowledge about the society. So look forward to participating.
Thanks, Chris. Elizabeth, you want to go next? People have seen you before, as you usually work with the webinars, so you won't be new to them, but she is new to the board, and we're excited to have her as a board member.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited as well. I had no idea that, last year when I moderated this, that I'd be here as a board member this year. I too had no real connection to Kentucky. I discovered that I am descended from a Kentucky family when I inherited a whole bunch of papers from my grandfather, who was a really enthusiastic genealogist, it turns out. I had no idea. They sat in my dad's basement for about 25 years, and then they got passed on to me, and I opened them up, and there it was. And I got involved with the society because I signed up to, sort of learn a little bit more about it. And I had this form that whoever designed that is very clever. Basically, it says, would you like to volunteer? But then it doesn't give you a place to say no. You can only say how. And so I filled it out because I'm a very rule following kind of person. I filled it out as intended, and here I am. So my research is, I'm actually kind of a rookie genealogist. I was trained as an historian. I'm an academic turned entrepreneur, but I'm really learning the ropes on genealogy. And my research particularly focuses on the fact that when I opened all those boxes, I discovered that I'm actually descended from slaveholders, and I really wanted to reckon with that. So that's why I'm here. But as sort of a pleasant side effect of discovering that, I'd also discovered the society, which has been really lovely. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Lynn Grow.
Yes, here I am. My name is Lynn Grow, and I grew up in Northern Kentucky. I now live in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm retired from Procter & Gamble. I'm married to a retired teacher and administrator, and have 2 grown sons. And I've been researching mainly my mother's family tree, and have found several interesting Quaker families, and a lot of every line I've looked at came to Kentucky very early, like late 1700s, early 1800s. And some of them really interesting stories of getting kicked out of the Quakers and then coming to Kentucky. Actually, I actually found 3 Revolutionary War patriots as well, although none of them were the Quakers, just to be clear. There were other parts of the family. So happy to be here and glad to be on the board.
Thank you, Lynn. And then we come to Diane Isaacson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Isaacson. I'm dialing in from snowy Massachusetts, but I have deep Southern roots on my mom's side. I came to the organization through the webinar programs, but I've been doing research for well over 30 years, thanks to my grandparents dragging me all over the countryside. I'm primarily interested in migration patterns and factors influencing migration, military history, and my friends like to say I've never met a lineage society I didn't want to join. So that's kind of my, I use it to tidy up my research, believe it or not. And so I'm a member of many genealogical, historical, and lineage societies, both covering my northern and southern ancestry. So thrilled to be a new member of the board and to tell you a little bit more about the grant committee and our recipients later in the webinar.
Thank you, Diane. Weston? Weston's a new at-large member. Weston Stewart, you want to tell us a little bit about you, Weston?
Sure. Currently, I live in Mount Vernon, Indiana, which is kind of like on the cusp of Indiana, Illinois, and Kentucky. And I moved here about 5 years ago, and I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. And I moved here because I met my wife. She's the main librarian here in Mount Vernon, Indiana. And as far as Louisville, I was born and raised in Louisville. And my dad's side of the family was from Appalachia in a little county called Jackson County, Kentucky. Found out that we had Melungeon in us and, you know, in history. And my mom's side of the family is from Bardstown. And so, you know, we have the German Catholic side on mom's side and the Appalachian Melungeon on dad's side. And I've been doing genealogy. I think it started in high school when I went to St. X. We had to do a little genealogy report about our family. I didn't know anything back then. You know, I had heard about my friend's family come from Italy and all that fun stuff. So ever since then, I got bit by a genealogy bug. And every friend of mine got married or they had a kid or bar mitzvah or whatever. I started doing their genealogy. So I think I'm a genealogy addict. So.
Thank you, Weston. Well, I want to give you a little bit of information about my research. And as I said earlier, I'm Kathy Kieser, and I'm one of your co-presidents. And my mom's side of the family has some Kentucky roots in Pike County and Floyd County. And a great aunt a long time ago did all the research. So I haven't done a whole lot of research there. And most of my family come from West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania. So I didn't really have a lot of roots in Kentucky until I took a DNA test. And it was through a Y-DNA test from my brother and then DNA test through me that I found out that a lot of our family lived here in Kentucky through DNA. Now, I haven't connected to them yet, but that then made me want to dig more into researching in Kentucky. And then my husband also, his family has some Kentucky roots. One of his ancestors was one of the first mayors of Ashland and fought in the Civil War. And I've enjoyed looking for that documentation as well. So that is all of us, with the exception of Susan Perney, who's not here tonight. She's one of our treasurers, and Susan Court. Oh, Jerry. Oh, sorry. I left Jerry out. Jerry Steele is returning to us on the board, and my apologies for missing you, Jerry. Tell us a little bit about your research.
Okay. I'm Jerry Steele. I came to be on the board because I had been on the board of directors in Dallas and like being involved in a very active organization, and I'm very enjoying this board particularly. My roots are very, very deep Texas and Eastern Tennessee. I do have a few that were in Montgomery County, Tennessee, and then went over the border into Campbell County, Kentucky. And then I have some adjoining families, the brothers and sisters of people that ended up in Texas that are here in Kentucky. I found that most of the time, all of your skills that you're using are common to every one of the states. You just have to learn a little bit more about the records. And so I'm doing that while I'm also helping with the website and other activities.
Thank you, Jerry. Susan?
All right. Our new treasurer, Susan Perney, we have now two Susans on the board. Susan Perney could not be with us tonight. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about her and what she has been doing in the field of genealogy. First of all, she lives in Kenton County, but she was born in Campbell County. And she's a retired CPA. She has 2 children and 5 grandchildren. So this is what she sent to me. She said, I first became interested in genealogy in 1990 when my first grandchild was born. I bought a grandmother's book that had a small family tree to be completed. It only went to my great-grandparents, but I couldn't complete it. And so my quests began. I took a break for about 10 years in 1996, and when I started again, we had the internet. I have traced my husband's family, which is Perny, back several generations in France, but I have hit a very solid brick wall with my father's family, Jolly. And so she says, apparently there were many Jollies in Kentucky in the 1700s, and everyone, I think, maybe my fifth great grandfather, turned out not to be him. Mother was a Tarvin, and there has been extensive research done on them. Currently, I'm trying to find information on my paternal grandmother's family, Clark. My goal is to get as many families as possible back to the water, but that is proving to be a huge task. Nearly every one of my ancestors was present at the time of the revolution. I've pretty much concentrated on online sources up until now, but my plan for this summer is to do some traveling around the state to track down the Clarks and another family, the Keens. So that's Susan Perny, who is going to be our treasurer for the next couple of years. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then we can go into the second half of the program. So I'm Susan Court. I live in Arlington, Virginia. I grew up in Kenton County. The focus of my genealogical research are the 4 branches of my family, which I started to research 23 years ago. But it wasn't until 2013 when I had time to really get serious. My 4th great-grandfathers, Christopher Hiles and William Henry Gates, came to Kentucky in the 1790s. Christopher down the Ohio and William Gates through the Cumberland Gap. They settled in Mason County. Their descendant and my great-grandfather, W.C. Hiles, moved to Covington in the 1850s. My other great-grandfathers also arrived in Covington during this decade. Charles Court from Manchester, England, Bernard Bulmer from Rottenburg am Neckar in Württemberg, and Joe Schlosser from Mottern, Alsace. I've written all their stories, plus 8 other stories of members of my family, as well as the families of my friends. I love writing. I love writing stories. I also like to teach. I've taught many courses, genealogy courses, and ran a genealogy discussion group during the pandemic for this Arlington 55+ community here in Arlington County, Virginia. And I'm about to start an 11-session class in March. So I just love to write, I love to teach, and I love to do the research. So that's me. And so now, now that the introductions are finished, we'd like to give you an update on our 2 digitization projects. So should I turn to that now, Kath? Is that a good time?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay. Let me get my PowerPoint up. Okay. Show my screen. And so Kathy, can you all see that? Is it?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
All right. Grand. All right. So a major part of our mission is to encourage the preservation and availability of genealogically significant Kentucky records, which, and I've heard Chris say this so many times, are only a tornado, fire, or flood away from being lost forever. We have a rich history of getting these records digitized and made available to members and non-members alike. Now, this effort is reflected in 2 programs. One is our grant program, and the other is the collaboration with FamilySearch. And we have some very exciting news to share with you tonight. So I'm going to give you an update on both of these, and Diane's going to help me in with one of the slides. So the grant program was started in 2019, and since that time, we've offered money grants to Kentucky's public libraries, genealogical and historical societies, museums, for the digitization of the genealogically significant Kentucky records. Now, since its inception, the Society has awarded 14 grants, including the 3 which Diane is going to describe to you momentarily. The process is pretty simple. By November 1st, applicants must submit their applications, which are then reviewed by the Society's grant committee. The 2023 grant committee was chaired by Diane and included Paul Rieken, Eileen Stranecki, Jane Sharita, Marsha Logsden, and Marilyn Isaacs. And I Hopefully I pronounced those names correctly. And if I didn't, my apologies. Anyway, many thanks, many thanks to Diane and the committee members. Now, this is just an overview of the grants submitted up to this time. 11 of them, as I mentioned. I'm not going to go through all of these. I just wanted to give you a little bit of sense. And there will be a recording of this program, and you'll be able to go back and look at this list. But this will just give you a quick overview of the grantees from 2019 to 2022. So Diane, I'm gonna, as chair of the grant committee, I'd like to turn over the program to you now to tell us about the 3 new grantees.
Sure, thank you. So we had an overwhelming response. We had 22 organizations show interest in the grants. So thank you all for spreading the word about our grant program. We unfortunately could only fund 3. And so the recipients, the first is the South Central Kentucky Cultural Center. They cover the Barron County area, which is present day encompasses Barron, Hart, Metcalfe, Monroe, and Allen County. Their record set is pretty diverse and spans from 1786 to 1878 and is currently not accessible to the public because of the fragility of the records. And so we are pleased to support their project. The second recipient is the Historic Russellville, doing business as the Sikh Museum. And for those members who watched the documentary Invented Before You Were Born, this is the museum that featured pretty heavily around that story of Major Richard Bibb's emancipation of those who were enslaved on his property after his death. And so this record set is based in Logan County. It spans 1866 to 1990s, and again, a really diverse group of collection, and has very limited access because of the fragility of the records. And then the third grantee is Woodford County Library. Their record set spans 1823 to 1970s and is, again, not accessible because the material is on microfilm and is badly damaged. So that's a collection that we're thrilled to be able to bring to life.
Excellent. Thanks, Diane. Thank you so much for all your work this past year, and also for this really good description of these 3 grantees. So let me just show you quickly the sort of an overview of the state. And so the new grantees, isn't that cute? I think that's really cute. Anyway, so I obviously, I don't get out much, but anyway, the counties with the green ribbons are the ones where organizations, libraries, or societies or museum have received grants in the past, and then the 3 that Diane just described have the orange ribbons. And you can see we're north, south, east, west, so we're getting around the state quite well, and that's really nice. So now I'm going to introduce you to our new grant committee chair. Actually, you already met her tonight, and that's Lynn Baldwin-Grow. So Lynn's taking over the reins of the grant committee from Diane, and we wish Lynn a lot of luck, and I'm sure she'll do a great job. So thank you, Lynn, for accepting the chairmanship of the grant committee. Now, as you probably know, our grant program is funded by contributions from its members and our members, and also other very generous people. So please consider sending a donation, and no amount is too small. Donations may be sent, and I put the link down here, kygs.org/donate to KYGS. So very easy to find right on our website. Okay, so now let me turn to the second update and our second digitization effort, which is the collaboration with FamilySearch.org. As some of you may know, we joined forces with FamilySearch less than 2 years now to locate genealogically significant Kentucky records. I have to say that like 4 times a night, before I go to bed. I say genealogically significant Kentucky records. Anyway, in particular, primary records, which FamilySearch hasn't digitized yet, and then arrange for FamilySearch to digitize them on site and post them online free of charge. Now, the society's role, our role, the volunteers from the society's role is to reach out to the county clerks in the state who are the custodians of the records of greatest interest to FamilySearch. And of course, all genealogists, that's birth, death, marriage, deeds, land, voter, tax, probate, and wills. Now, you'll note a difference between the records on which the collaboration focus and the records on which the grant program focuses. So the collaboration is about primary records. These are government records. And we're looking for the original government records, primary records. The grant program's focus is really on like unique Kentucky records that FamilySearch, my Heritage, Ancestry.com are not interested in. So they're uniquely Kentucky records that will most likely not be digitized by one of the big companies and organizations. So they're uniquely Kentucky records, but the collaboration's focus is on these primary records. Now, what do the society volunteers do? What do? We provide the clerks, these county clerks, who show interest in the program with a draft permission agreement and a list of frequently asked questions. We put together a little package for them, and we facilitate discussions between the clerks and FamilySearch personnel. So now, a clerk who wants to move forward, they'll work with FamilySearch to craft a permission agreement that they both like. We are not involved in that step. The society's volunteers are not involved in that step. That's really a contract negotiation between FamilySearch and the county clerks. It's really a lot less complicated than it sounds, by the way, because the permission agreement is very straightforward. The county clerks so far that they've tweaked it a little bit. FamilySearch is very receptive to the tweaking by our county clerks. But that's between them. We're not involved at that step. However, society volunteers play one additional very important role in this whole process. Before a permission agreement can be finalized between the clerks and FamilySearch, the records have to be that are going to be digitized have got to be identified with some specificity. Not down to the nitty gritty, but I mean with some specificity. And so what society volunteers do is, if needed, they go on site to liaise between the clerks and FamilySearch to help identify those records. And these records are sort of our boots on the ground. So now, once that record set is identified, it is appended to the permission agreement between the clerks and FamilySearch. At that point, the agreement is ready for signing. So here's our exciting news. In the last 7 weeks, 4 county clerks in FamilySearch have signed or they're about to sign agreements. Jim Larson in Campbell County, Justin Kriegler in Boone, Bobby Holzclaw in Jefferson, and Gabe Sumi in Kenton. We have ongoing, or at least the beginnings of, I think, meaningful discussions with county clerks in Rockcastle, Webster, Davies, and Hopkins. And I need to give a shout out here to society volunteers, Chris Paget, Susan Perney, Linda McCauley, Claudia Gleason, Terry Smith, and Teresa Ray, who are either have served are serving or have agreed to serve as boots on the ground in their respective counties. I was going to have a little contest here to see how fast people could identify these four county courthouses, but I won't do that. Okay. Loving maps. I'll show you the maps, and we have the green ribbons here are where the county clerks have already signed an agreement or about to sign an agreement. I love that I'm doing this again. The orange ribbons are where we have at least the beginnings, I think, of meaningful conversations between FamilySearch and the county clerks. And I put a couple little blue ribbons here because just in the past couple weeks, I've kind of gotten some nibbles that there may be some interest or could be interest in Oldham and Bourbon. But that remains to be seen, but I'm hopeful and will continue working on it. Now, we are in need of volunteers. So to reach out to the county clerks, and once an agreement has been reached, if needed, to help identify the records to be digitized. It helps, of course, if somebody lives in the state, lives in the county, to contact the clerks, but someone doesn't have to be in the state to do at least the first part of this work, because reaching out to the clerks, making contact with the clerks, it can be done by email, can be done by telephone. I put together packages to send to them, and I'm always available to discuss the projects with any county clerk who might be interested. So if you are interested in helping, just contact me at my kygs.org, kygs.org email. So before I turn this back over to Kathy, I just want to mention very quickly a heads up, our society February programs, because we're all kind of new to our jobs now. And so I wanted to at least start the publicity for our February programs. Dr. Jay Stotman, who is Assistant Director of the Kentucky Archaeological Survey, will be a presenter on February 26th. And LaJoy Mosby, who is the President of the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society, will join us on February 27th. And with that, I am going to turn the program back over to Kathy.
Thank you, Susan.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
Okay. Whoops. Help. There we go. I lost you all.
Okay. Are we all there? Still learning. Okay. We do have some time if there are anyone out there that have any questions. It is, Elizabeth, you may have to help me here, but they should see a chat on the on their dashboard where they can type that in. Is that correct?
That is correct. You should see a little sort of control panel that's on your board, and you'll see all these different, sort of options on the control panel. If you click the right-facing arrow next to questions, you should then be able to answer a question, ask a question. And actually, I can see we've already got a few coming in. So bear with me 1 second. I'm gonna open them up here. Okay. All right, so first one is, will the February programs be online also? Right, I think as like virtual also.
Yes. I mean, they are going to be webinars, and they will be virtual. And for non-members, non-members can get the information on our social media. Members will get the information and the details through the newsletter. And any other thing we can think of, right? Right, Kathy?
Yes.
All right, so we got another question here. During the board open house in August 2023 to kick off the summer seminar series, an announcement was made that a Kentucky Early Settlers Lineage Society would soon be launched. And the person is asking, what the developments are there.
Well, I think we can turn that over to Diane Isaacson, who has taken over with the support of Terry Smith, who has been working on it originally. Diane is going to be working on it with help of Terry, but Terry has, right, Terry, you've turned over most of the materials to Diane, and so Diane just got this responsibility. So I don't know if you have a lot to say, Diane, but we can turn it over to you for that purpose.
Sure. So I've been reviewing all the work that's been done ahead of time and have some proposals to bring to our next board meeting to vote on. But I think we can say that we are definitely interested in having putting an offering out there. It will be lineage-based to perpetuate the memory and spirit of those who first inhabited the land that we now know as Kentucky. You know, we're tossing around a few dates as to what the cutoff might be. I think originally we were talking about 1830. But again, you know, I think there's some decisions that the board has to make on that. But I hope to be able to launch the program later this year. So stay tuned. Is that a good sidestep?
All right, so we have a couple more questions coming in. Well, this one is just more of a comment and I guess a hello. The president of the Illinois State Genealogical Society is among our audience tonight, and is saying that that their board has commented often on how active we are as a society. So props from nearby state, yay. And then question is, I'm happy about the collaboration with FamilySearch, especially for Boone and Kenton counties. Do you know what types of records and the time frame for those records that have been agreed upon for digitization?
Yes, I do, but not right in front of me because there's a lot of detail. I mean, generally speaking, the records on which we have focused with the collaboration are records from the 19th century, early 20th century. And so that's basically the framework. Anything that's really recent, like 1950, 1960 on, we're not, even though they might have some of those records, but we're not really interested in those. The FamilySearch has a fairly clear idea of the date range. And so, but I can't give you off the top of my head because it's very detailed, the actual records or the record sets in the range. Now, I will point this out, is that what FamilySearch will be digitizing on site are the records that it has not digitized to date. So any of you who are familiar with the FamilySearch.org website knows that you can just go to their catalog research tool, go to a county, and it will give you all of the records which they already have digitized. So they're not going to, they're not going to digitize what they've already digitized because that would obviously be redundant and unnecessary. So that wasn't really a specific answer, but if somebody wants to send me an email, I'll share it with them, but I just don't have it on the top of my head.
Sure. And actually, we have a few other questions about the digitization in general. Excuse me. So since the grant program is based on unique Kentucky records that maybe some of the big organizations wouldn't be interested in, how do you identify and select the records that you want to digitize? How do you even find out? Because some of them might be sort of slightly offbeat or a little funky.
Well, that may actually answer your question, but Diane, you want to take that one as far as, I mean, Kathy and I have both served, and even Lynn in the very early days of the grant program worked on it. So, but as the immediate past chair, Diane, do you have any thoughts on that particular topic?
How do we, I guess I'm a little confused about the question, so I'll answer it in two parts. The first is, how do we identify them? we did a lot of outreach. Well, Susan did a ton of outreach during the year before, reaching out to all of anyone who might have records in the state of Kentucky, encouraging them to apply for grants. And we dovetailed off of that a lot. But I also did a lot of social media outreach, joined Facebook organizations, just to sort of see what are people looking for, and then tapped into some of my connections through lineage societies just to see where the records are and how willing people were to preserve them. And then we took a look at how ready the collections were. So did the organizations already have them cataloged and have an understanding of what it would take to complete a project like this? And so we used a rubric to score the applications as they came in based on quite a few criteria. At risk of preservation, the timeline, the uniqueness of the materials, those sorts of things, and had it's a difficult decision. We wanted to fund them all, but thanks to our generous donors and those who purchased the resource books, those funds were also used to help us provide the funding for these projects.
Right.
Sure that answers the question, but follow up.
And, I think it does. Yeah, I think it does. And actually, there's another very specific question related to digitization again. Are divorce records being considered for digitization? Knox County has sent their divorce records to the Kentucky Library and Archives. Are records held there being considered?
All right, that's actually a multifaceted question. And let me just mention that divorce records are the one type of record that are not in the custody or in the charge of the county clerks. Divorce records are judicial records. They are public records by definition. And they are created and maintained by the circuit court clerks. So right now we're focused on the county court clerk records because those are the ones that are of most interest to genealogists and which aren't necessarily readily available to the public. Whereas you can get a circuit court record, again, because it's a judicial proceeding and by definition, those are public records. Now, you also mentioned the KDLA. All right, I wasn't going to bring up the KDLA, but since somebody did, okay. We had a little bit of a detour since the time we started the collaboration in March. I remember exactly when it happened because I was in Florida at the time, March of 2022. And we were moving ahead in the way that I've just described, reaching out to the county clerks. In September of 2022, we took a slight detour because we thought there was a possibility of having FamilySearch digitize, actually scan the tens of thousands of microfilmed reels of primary records that they hold in Frankfurt. I mean, these have already been copied. So these are microfilm reels, but FamilySearch was going to scan them and make them available, digitize them and make them available online. Okay, I won't go through what happened, but we're still not there. The KDLA has still not agreed to allow FamilySearch to bring their scanning equipment onto the property and scan those documents. So it is what it is. So, but how it ties into the question here was with divorce records. They do have divorce records, but again, the same thing is true. Somebody can get a record, but you have to pay. I think it's $10 for Kentuckians, $15 for non-Kentuckians, or you can go to Frankfurt and do research there with the microfilm. So that's sort of where it is. But our main focus right now, although we do have a worksheet on every single county in the state, who the county clerks are, who the circuit clerks are, who all the genealogy, historical societies. So, you know, we're ready to hit the ground running if the KDLA ever says yes, come on in. We have a sheet on every single county and the people we should reach out to. So that's where we stand. But right now we're just going county by county to do this. So. Yeah.
We have a question that's come in about some really specific resources. And I fear that this is not really necessarily a board question, but I'll put it out there, and if anybody knows the answer, great. And if not, well, then we'll move on to the next one. So does anybody on the board here know about the best way to find out about land warrant information for having served in the American Revolutionary War? Maybe it's even something that you've come across in digitizing records that you can point people to.
I don't. Anybody?
Chris?
Yeah, so you want to go to the Secretary of State's office. We've had in the past Candy Atkinson come and speak to the society. In fact, her presentation was recorded and it's available in the Learning Library. And she is a guru at these types of records. But if you go to the Kentucky Secretary of State's office, they have just a treasure trove of resources on those records. And if you haven't been to their website, buckle up, because you're probably going to be out there for a couple hours digging through it. But there's a ton of information through the Secretary of State's office.
Okay. Asking you shall receive. All right. Yes, and a thank you in the chat from the asker of the question. Thank you very much. I think that's the end of the questions that are in the chat right now. So I'll turn it back over to one of our two co-presidents.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, well, if we have no other questions, then let's give away a couple of our books. As you know, we have the Essential Guide to Kentucky Family Research, as well as the Kentucky and Its Kin. So Jerry, if you will give me a number between 1 and 70.
54.
54, okay. That one will go to Jeffrey Dale Dameron. And give me one more number. Please, Jerry.
27.
27. And that is Angela Belt Newcomb. So we have your addresses on in your membership. If your addresses aren't correctly, then please send us an email and let us know, but we will get that out to you. And does anybody else have anything that they want to say in closing?
No.
Can I put in a plug for
the
book sale? For so if
go ahead. Yes, please.
Yeah, anyone who will be in or near Elizabethtown, Kentucky on February the 3rd, the society will have a table at the Ancestral Trails Historical Society book sale. They've been doing these for decades, and they will have lots of historical genealogical books on sale. And I believe Kathy and I will be there. So come visit as long as the weather works. If it's got a lot of snow, we will not be there. But if
no.
it's good, one or both of us will be there. So we'll be selling books that day.
Sounds great.
And,
yes,
and also, Kathy, I'm sorry. I was just going to say very quickly, this is, Chris's first board member meeting, but just on behalf of all of the board members, past, present, all the members, just a wonderful thank you, Chris, for your 4 years. He was president for 4 years. Kathy and I've only been in it for a few weeks, so I'm exhausted. 4 years.
Yay. Yay. Definitely.
Yes, we appreciate that. And he's just being a wealth of information and help for Susan and I. I know he is so nice about taking our calls and answering our emails, and when we're panicking already. And Susan and I were talking just last week that we've gotten through, actually gotten through like 7 days, and we were still okay.
You guys are doing great, and it is such a joy to be able to like step back and know that the society, that as the metaphor that folks on the board know that I've used a lot over the years is flying the plane, and we've got 2 great co-pilots right now, and
Absolutely.
I'm happy to be a part of the cabin crew now. So I'll be serving beverages and passing out peanuts and pretzels. I'm no longer the pilot, so thank you very much.
And I want to thank all the members that joined us tonight, and we look forward to serving you and bringing the society, even further along. We're just so excited for the year to come and see what everything's going to happen and different things we're going to try. And we thank you all for your continued support. And we're always here to listen to you if you have a suggestion or a complaint or just want to say something. We're here. So thank you all for joining us tonight, and thanks all to the board for participating. And we will talk to you all soon. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.